Greetings, everybody. I'm Pastor Joshua Sullivan at Holy Cross Lutheran Church in Kerrville, Texas, and you are watching ATP Ask the Pastor. And because of the name, if there's something that you'd like to ask the pastor, you can email me, atpholycross, that's all one word, atpholycross @gmail.com, and I'll do my best to get to it as soon as I'm able. All right, today someone writes, "Hey, Pastor, first of all, I want to say thank you for your mission and ministry. I'm a Christian guy with long hair, which goes down to my shoulders just about. My question is, can Christian men have long hair? 1 Corinthians 11:14 has been on my mind for a while. This is a somewhat difficult text to deal with. I also know there's Numbers 6:5, which talks about men growing out their hair in terms of a vow. I'd appreciate your help and your thoughts." All right, short answer, yes. You as a Christian man can wear shoulder-length hair with a good conscience. Now let's unpack this. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 11:14 and 15. Paul writes, "Does not even nature itself teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a dishonor to him? But if a woman has long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given to her for a covering." Now the basis for Paul's teaching here is nature, by which he means the instinctive sense of right and wrong. Now, this isn't against nature in the same way that Paul says that something like homosexuality is against nature in Romans 1:26 and 27. Homosexuality's against nature because it violates the order that God established in creation for sexual relations. One must use organs in ways that God did not intend, which do not fulfill those organs' purposes. Having long hair isn't against nature in the same way because everyone's hair grows long by nature if they don't cut it, if they allow it to grow long. If a certain men's hair length was against nature, then nature wouldn't allow men's hair to grow to that length. And a man would have to find some sort of an unnatural way in order to get the longer hair, than nature gave them. So the point here that Paul is making from nature isn't that a certain length of hair on man is wrong. The point is this: nature teaches men instinctively to shrink away from doing what their culture labels as feminine. And it also then teaches women to behave, to dress in distinctly feminine ways. So nature doesn't say men shouldn't have long hair as much as it says you shouldn't do what your culture labels as feminine. Nature isn't teaching about the length of hair as much as it's teaching that there are culturally masculine and feminine traits. Now, if long hair were contrary to nature in the same way that homosexuality is contrary to nature, then God would have been commanding Israelite men to sin when he established the Nazarite vow in Numbers chapter 6. So the Nazarite vow was a vow taken for a certain period of time, and during the period of the vow, the Nazarite would not drink wine or anything from the vine that could naturally ferment. He was to let the locks of the hair of his head grow, Numbers 6:5. He couldn't go near a dead body, even that of close family, and if someone did suddenly die next to him, then he had to shave his head and start the vow over. When the period of the vow was complete, he would then go to the tabernacle or temple, present a sin offering, a burnt offering, a peace offering, a grain offering, and a drink offering. And at that point, then, Numbers 6:18 says, "The Nazarite shall shave his consecrated head at the door of the tabernacle of meeting, and he shall take the hair from his consecrated head and put it on the fire, which is under the sacrifice of the peace offering." So, what does the growing out of one's hair and then the subsequent cutting it off and burning it on the altar signify? Well, Lutheran commentators Kyle and Delitzsch, their comments on this I think are real helpful and succinct. And they write, "The free growth of the hair, unhindered by the hand of man, was rather the symbol of strength and abundant vitality. It was not regarded by the Hebrews as a sign of sanctity, but simply as an ornament, in which the whole strength and fullness of vitality were exhibited, and which the Nazarite wore in honor of the Lord as a sign that he belonged to the Lord and dedicated himself to his service with all his vital powers. So long hair for men was an ornament in which the whole strength and fullness of a man's vitality were exhibited. This calls to mind long-haired Samson and long-haired Absalom in the Old Testament, although Absalom dedicated his strength and vitality not to the Lord but to himself and his own glory. But this mirrors the significance of men's hair in other ancient cultures in which it was a symbol of strength and vitality. So, for instance, Homer repeatedly calls the Greeks the long-haired Achaeans throughout the Iliad. Herodotus tells us that after the Lacedaemonians, the Spartans, took the city of Thyrea from the Argives, the Greeks, he writes this: "The Argives then cut their hair short, whereas formerly they were compelled by law to wear it long. And they made a law with a curse attached to it, that from that time forth no man of the Argives should grow their hair long, nor their women wear ornaments of gold, until they should have won back Thyrea." The Lacedaemonians, however, laid down for themselves the opposite to this, namely that they should wear long hair from that time forward, whereas before that time they had not their hair long. So again, vitality and strength is what long hair in ancient culture symbolized for men. We see this also in the Old Testament apocryphal book of Judith. Holofernes, the chief captain of the Assyrian/Babylonian army, wore long hair. In fact, the author uses the word kome, which is the same word that the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the OT, uses for Numbers 6:5 about the Nazarite vow. It's also the same word that Paul uses in 1 Corinthians 11:15 for long hair. So in ancient culture, long hair signified strength and vitality. However, styles change. In the Greco-Roman culture of 1st century AD, short hair for men is viewed as masculine, while long hair on a man is viewed as effeminate. So even the Jewish writer, Pseudo-Phocalides, writing sometime between 100 BC and 100 AD, wrote this: "Long hair is not fit for boys, but for voluptuous women." And this brings us back to the point. Paul isn't legislating a certain hair length or hairstyle for Christian men. His point is that nature teaches men to shy away from, again, what one's culture labels as feminine, and it teaches women to shy away from doing what one's culture labels as masculine. This means that when Paul writes long hair, he has in mind long hair that was commonly worn by women in his day. The same's true even in North American culture. Shoulder-length hair for men, that's socially acceptable, and it doesn't blur the line between the sexes. What would blur that line and what would be dishonorable for a man is if his hair was abnormally long, so the passerbys start humming Aerosmith's "Dude Looks Like a Lady." The bottom line is that Paul isn't legislating a certain hair length for Christian men. His immediate point is that nature provides women with long hair for a covering, and so they should be appropriately covered during worship. His broader point, though, is that men and women are different, and within cultural fashions, men are to look like men, and women are to look like women. So yes, you can wear shoulder-length hair in good conscience. I hope this helps, and as I said at the beginning, if you have questions that you'd like to ask me, atpholycross@gmail.com, and make sure and check out the links in the video description below as well. Until next time, God bless.